Okay, so if you bought the entire kit, there is sort of an order to do this. If you bought any one of the other parts and just want the part of the video with that, you can skip to the video where you need to go. First thing we're going to start with is the heat shield and the rear pick rail. If you do just want the pick rail and not the heat shield, just let me know. I can actually cut off the tongue here and file it and color match it, make it look nice. But this tongue is here for the heat shield. If you buy them together and intend on installing them together, you might have seen in some prototype pictures I had, there was a nut and a screw on top, but it's actually, let's get that to focus, it's riveted at this point. So when you get it, you'll probably have it like this in your package with the pick rail here, the heat shield underneath, and something just kind of protecting the finishes. You can just spin it around. Let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is remove the grub screws that are in the top here. And you'll probably notice something. I don't know if you can see. Yeah. So, as you can see by the color changing, your action is right under here. Now, there are other pick rails that are a little less money that will work for this, like the hole spacing's the same. But these screws that it takes, these strange, very rare gunsmithing screws, which are an abnormal thread, this is the shortest they come in. You cannot buy them any shorter than this, which means if you buy a pick rail from Amazon or whatever, and it says it works with Henry rifles, and people will say, oh yeah, it works with Henry Homesteader, but you have to shorten these screws. I don't know if you ever tried shortening screws before, especially with fine threads. You can kind of end up melting the threads together or crushing them together, and then it won't thread at all. And then what are you going to do? You're going to have, 2 screws left over after you screw it up, and yeah. The measurements for in here, you can put it as tight as you want. It's not going to protrude into your action. So what we're going to do is take a 2.5 millimeter hex wrench, and we're going to take the handguard off. If you're installing the other handguard later, make sure you keep this screw because we're going to reuse it. It's very important. Handguard just slides off. Set that aside. You're going to take this. Actually, wait. We're going to flip the gun back over. Take this and put it in upside down, like so, just until you get past the front sight. And then we're going to keep rotating it. We're going to have it all the way down. Let's see if I can get this a little better. I'm going to slide this all the way down and then twist it over top of the rear sight, push it into position. There we go. Now, your next step is going to be putting these 4 weird gunsmithing screws that were extremely difficult to find and pretty expensive, but yeah, anyways. Don't get me started on that. I just wish they were maybe metric threads or something instead of this very strange. Like, they're so rare, they're literally just called gunsmithing screws. And this is pretty much their only purpose, is for putting scopes onto your rifle. Like I said earlier, you can put these as tight as you want. Now, being right by the action, I feel like you would want to have Loctite on them. Just make sure that you don't end up pouring a bunch of Loctite down here into the actual action. could probably cause some issues, especially if you use red Loctite. Like I said, you can tighten those as much as you want. That's as tight as I could get it. There's no interference. It's a very fine line between, because one of the features, if you notice, is the cutout down the center. Is I still wanted people to be able to use their iron sights with this if they wanted, like a backup iron sight. But you have to have it high enough that the screw doesn't protrude down into the action. So there's literally like 1 millimeter or less of wiggle room, and I got it pretty much exact on. The other pick rails, rear pick rails I was talking about on Amazon, they do have the cutout down the middle too, but it's too deep. That's why the screws go into the action. So, see, perfectly fine. So what you're gonna do, stick them in, thread them on, easy peasy. Or at least in theory, it's easy peasy. It can actually be pretty difficult. You might need to use a clamp or just squeeze it with your fingers like this, like I am. Once you get a few turns on the first one, your second one won't be such a big deal. The first one's definitely the hardest for trying to get a screw in. I recommend taking a look at it too, just to see which side is closer, which side would be easier to do first. I think this side's probably a little easier. Let's try this one out. Let's see if this will help. There we go. Stick that in. Get the first one. I've said it in pretty much all of my videos, but if you can get your hands on one of these clamps, they're very cheap and they're extremely helpful. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't generally have like a lot of tools around. They just kind of, maybe you live in an apartment or something, you don't have a place to put a bunch of stuff, but this, I think these clamps should be in everybody's toolbox. Very helpful. It's tight enough to where I can't move it with my fingers, so it's actually threading into the heat shield itself now that I got the first one on. You don't even need a clamp at that point, just tighten it up, put on your nut. From this point on, you're gonna have to, flip your gun back over, kind of test the heat shield out, see how much wiggle it has, how much, if there's any rattling. You can tighten these up a bit if you need to. I think this is probably pretty good where I'm at. I think I'm just gonna tighten them a little bit just for security's sake. There. There's your heat shield installed. If this is all you were doing, you can put your handguard back on now. And that special screw I told you about, make sure you keep that in a safe spot. All right, next will be the handguard. Before I start, I'd just like to talk about it a little bit. So you may have noticed it's pretty affordable compared to the alternatives that we have or have had in the past. That is because this is actually made out of sheet aluminum. I purchased one-time CNC bending mold. Then you only have to do the CNC cost one time. But machining this out of CNC would be incredibly expensive. So I cut down a lot on the cost for you by having it just made of one sheet. There's one downside of that, is that you can't have, obviously, physical geometry inside of the bends. So there's two CNC pieces that I've attached. There's this guy right here, little block up front, and there's this rear piece here that gets attached through the bottom there. You may notice there's a rubber coating on here. That's just to prevent some rattling. Your hand guard, you start up at the top, Just gonna slide over like this. Slide over top of everything. Okay. Good. I got it sit on. This piece down here that I said has the rubber on it, there's a little slot here. You may notice on the wooden one it has the same little cutout piece. So we're gonna stick that in the slot. Flip your gun back over. Get this into position. Now your piece in here, I didn't thread lock these screws on the side because most likely your little piece in here will need some adjustment. If that's the case and it just doesn't line up properly, I can't really, I think I can get a good angle of it. Let me see here. You can see it right here. The angle with that hole right there is not matching up with the angle of the piece here. So I'm gonna have to stick my finger in here. Well, probably easier to just take the whole thing off. Try to match up the angle of this with the angle, or match up this angle with that angle. It looks like I have to go down a little more. You can see I can just move it by hand. I'm gonna push the angle down a little bit more. We'll try again. That looks good. All right, now that that's in, we'll flip it over like this. We're gonna take that screw I told you to save earlier. Hex wrench. We're gonna stick it. It goes through. One second. So your handguard here, as you can see, it has a through hole right there. It's gonna go through that through hole and into the silver one that's on the Homesteader. This is gonna be a little meticulous, but we can get her done. Okay, I'm in. Just gonna tighten it up. Now, just so you're aware, the lack of slots on the bottom is not necessarily a design choice. The action is right here. So, a part of the action. So when you shoot every time, there's a piece in here, pumps it back. Almost like a, I mean, it's like a blowback system, but you know what I mean. So if you put accessories in here, like a foregrip, you wanted to attach one here, you're gonna run the risk of hitting all those internals. Now, if you wanna bubba it yourself, and you can do whatever you like, you can mark a couple holes, drill them, put M-lock screws in there from the inside. You can do whatever you like, but I didn't want people attempting to use this and have it be my fault. So you want to do bubba it, do whatever you want, but I don't want anybody getting hurt. Yeah, that's all there is to it. That one slot at the bottom, this one screw, this slot at the bottom with the rubber on it, and this one screw in here. Look at that. No rattle. Shake it. Bring this out a bit. You can shake it up. Not making any noise. No rattling. Perfectly beautiful. All right, last but not least, we're going to move on to our final segment. So the final piece of the puzzle. Now, I love the look at this with the M-lock handguard, heat shield, all this modernization while still having a bit of wood. That's kind of what I'm all about with a lot of my accessories. But you gotta just love a pistol grip. So, it's time to put a pistol grip on this. And potentially even a folding stud. I'll show you more on that later. Before we get started here, I'd like to just talk about this piece real quick. So this is a AR-15 adapter right here. There's your threaded hole. It has a Beaver Tail part, and it's got a rear Picatinny rail. Originally, it was a buffer tube design, but because the Homesteader doesn't utilize a buffer tube, and I have some other products coming out with rear Picatinny rails, and even the Makasi that's coming out soon, I didn't think it made much sense to have a buffer tube. It just seemed unnecessary, and I don't want to have two versions because that will make the cost go up exponentially. So we're just sticking with the one version, Picatinny. If you have an actual tube buffer tube you want to use, you can get Picatinny to buffer tube adapters, and vice versa. But we're going with Picatinny, and yeah. So turns out my measurements were off by literally like 0.5 millimeter. Now I do 3D printed prototypes for everything I make, and it usually works out great. I had 3D printed prototypes and they just slid in like nothing, but once I got the actual machined aluminum ones, there must be some internals that just had a harder time sliding in. You will not see any of this when it's installed at all. What you would maybe see is this top lip here, which it was ground down, but I painted it with some color matching paint, and you won't see it at all. So yeah, I had to grind down a little bit. It was possible to get it on without grinding it, but it was very difficult and even harder to get it taken off. So that's how it is. I'm sure in a next version, 6 months to a year from now, I will have that fixed. But for now, this is what we've got. Everything else works perfectly. There's no downsides to this at all besides it being a little ugly. But like I said, you're not going to see that. Without further ado, let's get started. So you're going to need a number 2 Phillips head to remove the rubber buttstock first. You'll notice I've done this before, so you can see this hole really easily, but this one still has its cover on it. You're actually going to put your Phillips head into that hole and start loosening it. Okay, this one's still not out. Still not out, eh? Oh, we'll just twist you off. Okay. Now, it's been a while. I can't remember if the Henry Homesteader comes with this. It's a hex key for getting this out. If not, it's probably, what is that? 11/64, 3/16, or a 5 millimeter. Around a 5 millimeter hex key. So I'm gonna stick that down there and get that machine screw out. I feel like it comes with this because it's silver, and I usually, oh my gosh, that's tight. I usually buy all my hex keys in black. So I feel like I didn't buy this. Might have had it laying around or something. Stick that in. Stick my pliers on here. See if I can loosen this. There we go. Okay. Well, the rest should come out easy. There. Look at that guy. It's huge. You can keep that with your stock because we're not going to need it for now. Okay. Now it's time to actually put the adapter on. You've got this little nub right here sticking out. Inside there's a black, see those black lines? It actually slides right in there all the way to the hole. Now, if you get it most of the way and it's not quite on, there's 2 things you can do. You could stick this screw in with the provided screw and hex wrench that goes in through here to the back hole. And you can thread it on and just keep tightening it and it'll close up. Or if it's really stubborn, what you can do is go over to some carpet you have in your house and just go like this and slam it down on the carpet like that. I'm going to go do that right now. But it shouldn't hurt your finish or anything like that. If you're worried, you can put some more towels down or whatever. Just did a few light taps on the carpet. Finish is intact. Gap has been closed. Now it's time to tighten the screw that we put in. Tighten it all the way. And that's it. I found where this came from. The pistol grip I bought. So if you buy a pistol grip and it comes with a hex key, it should work for the that big long guy that was in the standard stock. Okay. Stick our grip on. This in here. Here's the fun part, trying to get it into the hole. Now this grip here has a beaver tail. If you don't know what that is, that's this part curves down here. It protects your hand a little better. I don't know if you've noticed, there doesn't really seem to be any specific dimensions or standard for beaver tails. You'll see sometimes a lot of people they'll buy like an actual AR from the States, and they'll buy some random pistol grip, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's like a huge gap, or it sticks out a lot or something like that. That is because there isn't really a standard. So I can't guarantee that your beaver tail will work. This here is for testing purposes, I got the cheapest thing I could find. It's an NC Star Vism, I don't know. Some mass-produced grip that they slapped their logo on. And as you can see a little bit, because of the beaver tail here, it doesn't actually line up perfectly just right here, because this is in the way, it's hitting up here. So you may have to modify your beaver tail to fit onto this. That's pretty typical. Like I said, even like actual ARs and stuff, people often have to file down their beaver tails. So there you have it. There is the fully built Homesteader, or at least fully built with my products. Now there is one more of my products that I just haven't received yet. Still in development, but I do have a prototype. I'm going to show you that right now. This is a folding buffer tube. The prototype part here is this. This is only 3D printed right now. Obviously the full product will be aluminum. This actually broke right here. If you can maybe see a little crack. So it's no good for being 3D printed, but I will make an aluminum one. It's basically a 6-position buffer tube, quote unquote. It takes buffer tube rears like this, or these standard ones you can get at True North Arms. But anyways, this attaches to Picatinny rears. So this will actually work on my upcoming SKS stock, as will it work on the Makasi semi-auto that's coming out soon. And my SKS chassis is also coming out soon, quote unquote. I have everything ready. I just, I have to get my wooden parts in. I have a bunch of wooden parts that were being CNC machined, and they're just delays upon delays. I actually ordered them back in early March. It was one of the first things I ordered. So I'm just kind of sitting around waiting for those. But in the meantime, I got lots of cool Homesteader stuff coming out. So just like that. That's how it works. Just screws on to a Picatinny rear. It is what they call a skeletonized buffer tube. Pull it up here. Again, this is 3D printed and it's already broken. So it might break again. Just bear with me. You just pull it up and it folds to the side and locks in place. You can also install it upside down and change the way it folds. You just flip the buffer tube over to the other side, and you can have it fold onto this, over this way. But I just have it this way because this is the way it comes. So, yeah, should be good. There's your entire piece with the heat shield. All right, thanks for watching.